let's shoot on what is definitely the finale now, could be the finale forever. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to A Million Little Podcast, the premier A Million Little Things podcast. I'm Kevin McCaffrey. I'm here with your boy, Chicago's own Dave Miller. What up, Dave?
What's going on, Kevin? I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but honestly, this could be my last podcast. I can't take this show anymore.
Well, you know, I mean, it's possible that ABC can't take the show anymore. The show has not been renewed.
That is correct. The show technically has not been renewed. Really quick before we started recording, I just went online and DJ Nash has said, now this is going back to October, he said he has mapped out a scenario for 5 seasons. He said the cast feels that this could be a 5-season show with story arcs. He said he's been working on season 3 story arcs already. This is an article. He talked to Good Housekeeping, kind of a weird publication.
Sure. They're not usually on the cutting edge of television pickups and stuff like that, but yeah.
Yeah, he talked to them in October, so he already kind of has season 3 mapped out. Of course, ABC hasn't made a decision. Now with the coronavirus, everything's up in the air. Granted, it's only late March, but everything's up in the air right now. So
yeah, we don't know. Does showbiz exist? Does anything exist? Which makes the ending of this episode, which we'll get to, but all the more insane. As listeners know, my wife, Jamie, has, for the time being, for professional reasons, has had to drop out of the podcast. But we watched this together. And we were both talking briefly as I was making a drink before sitting down to Skype with you, as we're doing immediately after the show, right?
Absolutely. It's nice to do it. It's weird because it's always best to record right after because everything's fresh. But then at the same time, your mind's kind of jumbled because you're furiously taking notes. So there's pros and cons to waiting. It feels good, though, to do it right after the show. Like especially when Jamie was in the room, it was tough for all 3 of us to be together. But when we were together, I felt like it was special.
Yes, it was. And then we've lost a character, and much like with the TV show, we don't know if she's coming back or not. But they have not. Jamie has not been renewed for season 3 yet. But we were and we'll obviously talk about all the details about this episode. But I guess part of and Dave and I haven't really exchanged overall big thoughts yet, but we felt like the 1-year anniversary of John's death, that episode, that felt like a finale to me.
Yeah, 100%. We talked about it on the show. It did feel good. And now it kind of feels like a double finale situation, but the John 1-year anniversary, I would have been very comfortable with that, to be honest with you. I would have been.
That felt like the finale, and we should say it's extremely difficult to write a storyline, write a singular episode that can function as both a season finale and a potential series finale. To my mind, the show that did that the best when they kept not knowing that they were getting renewed was Friday Night Lights. You watch that show, with the exception of season 2 maybe, which also dealt with the writer's strike. Every single season, they weren't sure if they were getting picked up, and then I think they had some weird DirecTV deal by the end, as opposed to NBC. But every season finale also works as a series finale, but that's basically impossible to do. And A Million Little Things, this episode was just, they are not playing this in any way as a series finale. This would be an insane series finale.
Exactly. This would be, and you mentioned on last week's show that you just started to watch The Sopranos or whatever. That was one of those shows where I know one of these days I'm going to sit down and watch in sequence. But I remember the series finale, and people were mad at the white light or whatever, and Don't Stop Believin' being. Yes, this was kind of weird. Eddie getting hit by the car and stuff. So
yeah,
it definitely. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, and that happens. I mean, that's the closing image, and we're not giving you guys spoilers. No one's listening to this episode not having seen the last episode.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to say it right
No,
there.
I mean, that's people don't watch this in real time. We're not Mystery Science Theater 3000, So, yeah, the fucking show ends with Eddie and Jamie. I think we were all kind of feeling it, but Jamie literally said, as he's on the phone, she's like, that drunk guy next to him's going to hit him. She called it immediately. And I was like, oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. And that's going to be the last thing.
Oh, no, that's great. I absolutely said hit by car. Didn't think of the drunk guy. I was still stuck on, okay, the drunk guy has helped me realize I can't take this drink. I need to go home to my wife. But yeah, I didn't even put that you went above and beyond.
Oh, it's got to be that old guy. Jamie said he's going to get hit by a car, and I said, oh, it's the old guy next to. It's the old guy next to him who he saw being sort of a sloppy drunk. By the way, I've seen sloppier. I've been sloppier, but
yes, so great.
But he. It was like, oh, it's going to be that guy got in his car when he shouldn't have and hits Eddie, and it's a weird karmic thing. But, man, I thought we talked about how the 1 year anniversary of John Dixon's death, how that episode was really well done, top to bottom. It's a difficult assignment, like I said, doing a finale like this. This episode, to me, felt sloppy as fuck. Like, it felt sloppy all over the place to me. There's some good stuff in it, but it's a mess to me. But go ahead.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to explain. It's hard to explain. It feels like some sort of it just feels like some sort of a summer special episode.
Yeah, it's sort of
like a movie version of it. It's just, you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, there's too much going on. It feels like last week was the season finale, and then DJ Nash just found out, sorry guys, we're not renewing season 3, but you have one more episode in you.
It does. Totally. It feels like a weird change. And I think the main thing that makes it feel like a standalone sort of like summer special bottle episode is the Eddie murder plot is just like, what the fuck are we even doing?
Why is Eddie looking for this pair of jeans after 20 years? And why are those jeans still there?
And Jamie said, and we are kind of starting at the end more than we usually do, but Eddie finds a backpack that hasn't been moved in 20 years, and it's got all the clues I still don't even really understand what's happening. And part of this is because I'm an idiot. And I'll admit to that. People have tweeted at me at A Million Podcast on Twitter. Follow us. We're more active on Twitter than Instagram, where we're A Million Little Podcast. But yeah, I didn't understand what was happening. He's like, oh, there's a bracelet. I killed her. You didn't really. Everyone was drunk, right? And then it's still unclear how she went into the water or whatever. But all that storyline felt like, I referenced Friday Night Lights earlier, there's like a murder storyline in season 2 that's very clearly like the network was like, you gotta spice it up, baby. Enough of these small stories told well. Landry's gotta murder someone and then hide the body for no reason. It's a really like dumb, it just doesn't feel like what the show is and what the show does well. Because Dave, what feels more dramatic in this episode? The murder plot or Rome and Gina not getting to keep their baby?
Rome and Gina not getting to keep the baby.
By 1,000,000,000%.
Yeah.
And that's, on paper, a murder plot is a bigger story, but not in the context of this show, because that's not what this show's about. Weird murder mysteries that just pop up out of nowhere, like a Deus Ex murder basically is, it sucks. This murder, I don't know how you feel. I think I have an idea, but this murder plot sucks for me.
Well, it does. And the other thing is, like, Eddie, he doesn't take the drink. He calls Catherine and he's like, I'm ready to live again, sort of deal. And like,
that's when you know you're getting hit by a car. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, well, okay, you were so distraught about killing this girl, and again, you kind of didn't kill her.
No, he didn't, and I keep saying murder. It's not murder. It's a death. It's an accidental death, but still.
Yeah, but, like, he got over it so quick. You know what I mean?
Oh, it had no bearing on his life at all until his sister brought it up. I'll tell you what, if I was involved in an accidental killing, I wouldn't need my sister to bring it up. I'd be like, oh, yeah, I remember that shit. I haven't had that interesting a life. I remember all the accidental deaths I've been involved with, for sure. Yeah, and his sister, let's just say, does suck. She is just... this just shows you, Dave, you can get sober and still be a bad person.
Yeah. Bad liar and, like, misleading Catherine kind of on stupid stuff. Like, I don't know.
She came in. She's a sloppy bitch who's living for the drama, and comes back and throws all this stuff in. Let's start. Let's go back to early in the episode before we get to the rest of this stuff. It's weird, as you said, Dave. This might be our last podcast, though, because this could be the series finale.
That would not be fun.
No. So who knows? Maybe we'll have even if the show's over, which hopefully it's not, but even if it is, maybe we'll do a comeback, like a recap at the end podcast or something.
Sure.
But Dave, where do you want to start? Starting from the top of the episode after we just got all those visceral reactions out of the way up top.
Okay, we can definitely start anywhere. We've been talking a lot about Eddie, but maybe we should hold off on that because of the closing scene. Do you want to? You mentioned to me the most emotional part of the show, Regina and Rome. Do you want to do the baby storyline?
Sure.
Okay, and Kevin, we can tie this into you mentioning that you and Jamie saw the final scene coming. Of course, when he's crossing the street, I kind of saw that coming too.
Yeah.
I also, to be honest with you, saw this whole drama coming with Eve.
Oh, for sure.
Yes, I don't understand how this is really allowed. So let's start at the beginning. Obviously, Eddie and Catherine are going to have their vow renewal, but Eve goes into labor. So early in the episode, Eve goes into labor. We find out that she's in distress. A type of distress, I forget the medical term, but it threatens both her and the baby. So right off the bat, Rome and Gina are worrying because...
preeclampsia? Was that?
Yeah, preeclampsia. So you have drama right at the beginning, Eve and the baby in trouble. Well, Eve finally delivers the baby. It's a healthy son. Gina asks Delilah permission to name it John, so they name it John after, obviously, John Dixon. And then right away, after a commercial break, we find Rome distraught, and it turns out that Eve wants to keep the baby. And again, we've talked about this numerous times, with Jamie, with you, all this. I don't understand how this is allowed to happen. I'm not privy to adoption. I just know that, when there's open adoptions, there's closed adoptions. Something like this just can't happen.
We kind of all felt back in the days when my wife was on this podcast. I think she, as you said, she was calling it then like, oh, she's keeping the baby. Like this is going to be a rope-a-dope situation. There's going to be take-backs. She's doing that. And yeah, this is another thing where I know adoption is far too complicated. I know being adoptive parents, you have to go, it's extremely expensive for one thing. You have to go through a ton. And in some ways, I understand that, you want good people to be getting these babies, but there's a lot of babies out there that don't have good homes. And it just sucks. I mean, sucks is not a big enough word, but to think that you can go this far down the process and lose the baby after you've already met and held the baby, that's insane. Like you said, and it also just feels like, well, wouldn't this happen almost all the time too,
Absolutely. I feel like there's got to be some sort of intermediary,
right?
And
it's and it's weird because it's tough because how do you then tell the birth mother, oh, you want to keep it? Too bad. You can't. That also seems crazy, but I mean, also it's like, well, she should have to pay Rome and Gina back for every meal they ever bought her, every car ride, because it's now it's just a fraudulent relationship you've had with these people. I understand you change your mind, and I'm not even really like knocking that because I've never been in that position. I can't imagine being in that position. But now you've gotten the advantage of you've taken over these people's lives and for fraudulent reasons. Now, even if you didn't mean it in a fraudulent way at the beginning, and like this sounds like I'm shit talking Eve, really, but really before that, I would happily shit talk Rome and Gina when they're hugging each other and going, "We're having a baby," and I guess that's how you got to feel if you're adoptive parents. But like, even if they were still getting the baby from Eve, I would still be like, slow your roll. Eve's having the baby. You guys have made a commitment and you're hanging out, and hopefully you get to raise this baby. And then she's doing the thing right now. And when they're like, why hasn't anyone told us anything? Well, I'll tell you why, because you're actually not important right now. Like, the birth mother and the baby are in medical trouble. That's who they're focused on. You guys are unimportant at the moment, so shut the fuck up,
Yeah, for sure. Well, and then it goes back to last week, too, how we were saying I thought maybe they should have done the baby shower once the baby arrived and once they had, I was going to say possession, but you know what I mean? Like, once they, it's different, but Rome and Gina taking the center of attention. And then at the end, Gina says to Rome, "You made me want this." I thought that was very unfair.
It's unfair. It's complex in a way that I think I believe that's real. You know what I mean? Where that I don't think that's fair, but I think it's really good acting.
Yeah.
Really good acting by the actress who plays Gina, and Rome does a great job in this episode too, but she really hits the you. You made me want this. And Jamie was saying, as we were watching that scene, she was like, it's like I didn't have to feel this hurt until you really convinced me to be in on it. And Rome is part of 0% of this bait and switch, obviously. But she basically didn't have these feelings before, and now she does. And there's a productive way to deal with those, I think, where it's like either, I don't know if there's a different way to approach adoption than they did, or whether it's something where she's like, where she would be more willing to try to have a child of her own biologically now, because there's no reason they can't. She didn't want to, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, no, that's a fantastic point.
But that's this is a nuanced, difficult thing. Like, now this is tension in their lives between each other. And it's like, oh, that's fucked up. And I agree with you, that's not fair. But that's also like, oh, that's a good story to tell.
Yeah, and financially, I do wonder how much do you put up front, or how does that work? I mean, is there like a refund? I mean,
Dave, I get the feeling like you and I are not on the verge of adopting a child anytime soon.
Yeah, I am not in the know.
Yeah, same. Me neither. But yeah, that's easily the most brutal thing. And we mentioned, obviously, like, the fact that Eddie and Catherine are having their vow renewals today. It's just, I mean, that's fine. It's TV shows. Sometimes things have to happen because it's a TV show. It's like in Seinfeld. Remember when like George and Jerry are pitching the show to the network at some point in Seinfeld, and George is very insistent and nothing happens, and they're like, "Why do people watch?" He says, "Because it's on TV." That's why. And it's like, yeah. Sometimes things just happen on a show because we have to have a show today. So that's and to throw another comp out, Lorne Michaels would always say Saturday Night Live doesn't go on because it's ready; it goes on because it's 11:30. It's 11:30 on Saturday, so that's when you get it. It's not because it's done yet, And all that said, having a vow renewal, okay. Rome and Gina go into labor. Eve goes into labor. All right, fine. Maybe you still go ahead with the vow renewal. Maggie's leaving that day. You have no friends left. fucking postpone the vows. You could do this anytime. This is rushed anyway. Also, Eddie's off solving his own pretend murder that he and you can't, and you're not, and they eventually do postpone the vows, but how long they wait to do it. Also, the fact that they show up at the hospital and they're like, I guess we'll do the vow renewal in this room. This is literally for people to kneel and pray because their loved ones are about to die. That's what this room is for.
No, they're acting like it's a brand new marriage. I wrote down, moving the vow renewal to hospital. Everything in this show is unnecessary. It is. It's unnecessary.
In this episode, yes. And, oh my God, people doing a vow renewal in the hospital chapel, fucking what kind of ignorant privilege that is. As someone who's been in a hospital chapel when there were bad things going on, I can't imagine the spoiled brats being like, well, we're just going to have love in here today. The only time marriage vows should be happening in that chapel is when it's like someone is terminally ill in the hospital. They want to get married before it ends. I mean, so this is, I don't know if anyone's ever had a marriage renewal, vow renewal in a hospital like this who were not sick or what, but to me, this was like really, truly tone deaf. It felt like it was written by people who've never had a problem, honestly.
Yeah. That's a very depressing place.
It sucked. Extremely depressing. And at some point, Rome and Gina duck in when, Eve is having problems. And they're like, yeah, can we have this room to pray? And then people leave. So there is a brief nod to like, oh, this room's actually used for... This room has a purpose, Yeah. So at least they showed that, I guess. But, man, it's like, what the fuck? This, again, I get it. It's a TV show. We're doing a vow renewal. But, like, guys, you have no friends here. And also half of the room is strangers. It's hot EMT.
Oh, yeah, Miles is the new Maggie now. He's just in the front group.
Miles is the new Maggie, and Darcy's the new Maggie. They're all the new Maggie. Like, It's just, this room is half strangers at this point for the vow renewal.
It's just incredible. And again, no one works.
No one's ever had a job, for sure. Which is most TV shows, I guess. But certainly this one, too. So I guess that's most of the Rome and Gina storyline, right?
Yeah, that takes care of that. My final note was you made me want this. No, I get it. I mean, it's brutal. It was, it's brutal. Well, you mentioned Darcy. Should we veer toward, or we can do Miles or like the Gary Darcy Maggie stuff?
I mean,
Miles isn't fantastic, but.
Yeah, either way. Do we want to do more major or more minor next?
Well, you know what? Let's knock out. The only thing I wanted to talk about Miles is, very nice guy, but again, he's kind of like I thought the exchange with Sophie and Danny fighting over Miles' attention, kind of cute. Obviously, Danny, gay, but sort of that age, maturing and stuff, finds him attractive. Sophie,
it's fun. Yeah, it's fun that they have a fight over him, which is also like wildly age inappropriate, but also when you're a kid, you don't give a shit, we had a friend of ours tweeted at us I'm going to say Bree Fohey, Bree Hall, at BRIFOHEY on Twitter. She tweeted at us at A Million Podcast during the show, and she said, I have a feeling this will be discussed at length on the next episode. I'm here for it. And it was the 10 out of 10 reaction of Danny and Sophie, and Danny going, oh, when he was putting it together. And Jamie and I both watching it, and as we know, Jamie, the biggest Danny stan on earth, we were both like, Danny, be cool, dude. You gotta be cool on this one.
Yeah. Because he only gets so many scenes per month. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like he's in one episode out of every 3 or 4. So you got to make your lines count.
Right. And we were like, oh, is this a rule? People of a certain age can only work so much? But Theo's been in all these fucking episodes. I think I think Danny's been getting a lot of Danny/Chance, the guy who plays that role, Chance, has been getting a lot more roles outside the show, I think, too. I think his career is going well, so that's really nice. So hopefully that's why he's been on less frequently. But yeah, he and Sophie had a nice scene with the EMT guy, who, by the way, this Gary kept teasing Delilah about this guy, which that's a friend move that I understand. But Gary, he laid it on so thick. I'm like, does Gary want to fuck this guy? What's happening?
Oh, speaking of Gary, really quick, Kevin, what does Gary do 2 minutes into the episode?
Gary fucks.
He definitely did.
The show opens where Gary fucks. If we had merch for this podcast, we would just have a shirt that says Gary fucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how the show... I mean, and that, if you're doing a series finale, that is an appropriate way to open your last episode.
For sure. And also, I'm sorry, I'm a big Darcy fan. After this quarantine...
He's a Darcy guy.
Yeah, after this quarantine ends, single moms, divorcees, it's going to be how it is for me.
Yeah. Dave Miller, find him at Miller_Dave. This is a gentleman.
Maybe the actress Darcy's single in real life. Slide into her DMs, find out.
Slide into those Dave Miller DMs. DMs. Man, you're the ultimate DM.
Absolutely.
DM All-American. Yeah, so we have... Oh, yeah, so Delilah didn't have a lot of heavy lifting this episode, which is good, because she, in the 1-year anniversary episode, she had, the heaviest stuff. Basically, she's just talking to the young... hot EMT. It's always funny to see on TV who's treated as hot too, because everyone is attractive. You know?
Oh yeah.
So it's weird for them to be like, this hot guy. It's like, well, everyone's fucking hot. Pretty much everyone here is a hot person.
Yeah, you're not going to be bad looking, or you're not going to be on TV if you're bad looking.
No, and Delilah's smoking, and she's like, oh, I'm older, and he's basically like, yeah, I'm into it. They have the Delilah and he have that date early on where he's like, my dad said sometimes in life you crap your pants. And Jamie and I were both just like, your dad didn't say that. This isn't a story. God, has anyone... this is not a story. Anyway.
Yeah, I was surprised that scene existed, and then I was surprised it existed so early in the episode.
Yeah, true that. But yeah, Danny and Sophie scene where they're both hitting on him, and then he's introduced, and the kids take it pretty well, honestly.
Yeah, they did. I was concerned that Sophie would see the age or see the young guy, and we'd have a Sophie Delilah tiff, so we didn't get those.
I mean, it's got to be tough as Sophie, who's she's 16 or something, and she's growing up and then just being like, oh man, my mom could steal any guy I ever want to date. You got tough competition in the household.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got, do we have anything else for Delilah? Miles?
No, it was light. Miles had some good screen time, but we took care of it. Yeah.
All right, so do we want to do the Gary Maggie before coming back to Eddie Catherine to end?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Gary fucks.
He does, and we get 2 flashbacks. Maggie showing the subletter, the apartment, and then she gets the flashback to the egg salad. And then coming back into the hospital, the Miles delivers sandwiches, and she chooses egg salad. Gary with a great move, knowing that she doesn't like egg salad, giving her half his sandwich, just like back in the old days. And that just showed, from the get-go, they made it clear that Maggie was still in love with Gary. And then she finally says so, and Gary kind of goes off on her, and I can't disagree. I mean,
yeah, this is a good scene to spend some time on. But tell me your feelings on it.
Yeah, no, Gary wanted to hear that much earlier, and once again, it was a timing issue.
Jamie and I both immediately thought of Swingers in this moment, the movie Swingers, where a common theme in that, Jon Favreau, the character he plays in that movie, he's talking to Vince Vaughn. He's like, why won't my ex-girlfriend call? And he's like, she just won't until you move on. Somehow they don't know. They know, they meaning exes in general, know to not get in touch until you've actually moved on. And then they get in touch immediately. And I mean, in my life, this seems to be the case, and that is the case here, and that's sort of why Gary blows up, where he's like, man, this is exactly what I wanted until this minute when it happened. So, Maggie's not being mean here. She just, it takes a while. Sometimes it takes a while to actually say the things you're feeling, and you have to, and it's hard to figure out what you're even feeling, and then she does, and Gary's like, man, I would have given anything to hear this before, and now I finally moved on a little bit. I'm happy. I'm excited about something new. And
he says she's too late, and he wasn't even being mean. Like, he was angry because he wanted to hear that so badly for several weeks or months, however long it was. It's just brutal. The timing was just brutal.
Right, and it's a thing where he's yelling and a little bit, but and if I was her, I would be like, oh, he's yelling at me. But I think for him, it's not yelling at her, it's yelling about the situation, and he's just like, this is insane. But I thought also the way I think Allison Miller, I think that's the name of the actress, the way she delivered the writing, I've shit on some of the writing in this episode specifically leading up to this, so I want to give credit here, but the writing of how she delivered her feelings to him, I felt like was real in a non-TV way, where she said something about how, I wanted you to come with me to England back then. And she was like, I would love it if you would still do that. And I thought it's weird. I feel like it was good because it's the way a person would actually talk as opposed to like a movie line, quote,
100%.
Quote. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. It was a fantastic scene. It was brutal to watch, obviously.
Dude, I wrote down amicable breakups are the worst. Yeah. Like, the most painful things are breaking up with someone you actually love. Just because things don't work or what, that's because if someone did something particularly wrong or you actually like hate the person now, that it can still be painful, but at least you feel solid about it. And it's like, oh man, breaking up with someone you love sucks. And that's what's happening here.
And essentially there's not a reason for them not to be together. I mean, the Oxford thing, yes, that'd be the only thing.
Moving to England's a thing. Yeah. But yeah, they have that. And earlier on in the episode, Maggie walks in. Gary lets go of Darcy's hand, right? Tell me about that.
Yeah. So that was the first instance of the episode. There were a lot of scenes in which Maggie was clearly distraught. She walks into Delilah's house. Gary's holding Darcy's hand. And Gary's the one that drops it. So you think that this can come to a head and, they will be together by the end of the episode because of all these little signs. And then Gary dropping off his half a sandwich on the way to the soda machine, knowing that Maggie doesn't like egg salad. So that's what's so great about this show. Like, they do a good job of building up stuff like that. So it looks like things are going to come to a head, which they do. But, Gary tells her ultimately, you're too late. So it sucks.
Yeah. And you're too late, but that doesn't mean he doesn't care about her. Obviously he did with the sandwich thing. That wasn't trying to win her. It was just, that's how his brain and how his heart works with this person.
Same thing going to the airport at the end, apologizing, telling her you saved me, and just citing timing. And then saying, I do love you. It's just, we have to do our thing.
Right. Yeah, I thought it was a story well told, which is something I said 5 or 6 episodes ago when it seemed like they were breaking up even though they loved each other. Because that's a real thing that I think you don't see on TV a ton. You don't see it then go through with it like they did. And credit to them, they had the courage to go through with it and not give you the clean Gary and Maggie back together, like I'm sure a lot of people were rooting for at the end of this. But again, that's one of the things to the beginning of our episode here when we said the thing about it being a season finale that might also be a series finale. As a series finale, it's like, man, this would be a fucking bummer of a series finale. Gary and Maggie don't get together. Rome and Gina don't get a kid. Eddie and Catherine do not renew their vows, and Eddie just gets hit by a car, and that's the last thing. Literally, the only happy thing is that Delilah fucks. The only happy ending we get at the end of season 2 is Delilah is getting hers with a young EMT. That's the upside.
After cheating on her husband, which of course didn't lead to suicide, but you have people that will, still argue that.
Well, it's true that the only happy ending comes for someone who at the beginning of the show was cheating with one of the other people on the show. That's the only one things are working out well for in this moment at the end. Yeah. Oh, and I also thought the Gary Darcy scene where she mentioned to him, like, when you drop my hand, like, what's going on there? And he was honest, and he said, I didn't want her to feel bad. And I absolutely get that. Like, I absolutely get
me. Yeah.
What's that?
That's basically me. Kevin, there's been a few instances, in my late 20s or whatever, where I found myself, like, dating someone who either was like, or either had a kid or like was like divorced or something. They know right away. Like, they lay it out.
Sure.
You kind of want to play it slow. No, they know right away. Sometimes they're too fast, but they don't mess around. She said in the episode, I don't play games. Those girls don't play games.
Yeah. And Gary's not trying to play games, but, everyone's life works at their own speed. He's trying to figure out his own shit. And he was being pretty honest with her. He told her everything. He was like, if that made you uncomfortable, I'm sorry. And so he was the opposite of playing games to her.
Yeah.
But then she was just like, figure out how you feel about your ex. And to his credit, like, he wasn't the one that was acting confused, at that point. But I also get it from her being like you say, she's a single mom. She doesn't have time to play around and whatever, where she's like, I don't want to be in the middle of this. Like, I don't want to be in a thing. So that made sense. And I thought that was also well played.
Relationships are just brutal.
Yeah, dude.
They're so bad.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Dave, have you ever had a breakup with someone who it felt like the love was still there from both sides during the breakup?
Yeah. It's best we moved on, but yes. It was amicable, but yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. To me, that's the toughest. Like, if you can be mad or something, or just over it, it can still be messy, but that's easier.
It is, yeah. I agree.
All right, so we're talking Eddie Catherine, right, to end?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Eddie Catherine.
Unless we missed anything from Gary Maggie.
Oh, no, I saw notes, and it relates to Eddie Catherine. I thought it didn't. Yeah, Eddie Catherine, obviously we talk about they want to renew their vows, but going back to last week, Eddie's got this mystery that he has to solve.
Christ.
First of all, he chooses Theo to be his best man. That was kind of cute.
It was funny. Well, Jamie was like saying that Theo has hardly been more on his bullshit than today. Rolling out in a tux, he throws out a suck it, and we were like, Theo, are you allowed to say suck it? Also, if I was to grow up, I'd be like, Theo, what do you want people to suck here? Do you even know what you're saying? Like, Theo, are you saying suck your dick? Is that what you're saying, Theo? You don't know what's happening. But there was the rivalry between Rome and Gary for best man, and then as soon as you see Theo in a tux, I was like, oh yeah, well, it's gonna be Theo.
Yeah, so that happens. Okay, so they end up going to the hospital because then Eve goes into labor. Then Colleen arrives. Colleen, who actually was in half the season of The Unicorn this year. That's a CBS show that I love.
Okay.
With Walter. Yeah, so Colleen is Alex's sister. Alex is the girl that drowned. Kevin, can you tell me how Colleen knows where Eddie lives? Again, I guess we have to,
No, I the first word I wrote down here was sloppy. I just wrote like, what? It's just like people coming out of the woodwork. It doesn't make sense. Just Colleen shows up, and I'm like, I know this actress from somewhere. That's the first thing I think. And then Eddie, we need to talk. how does she know who Eddie? Who is this? Who are you?
Yeah.
So, she's Eddie. We need to talk about what, and then it's basically that. So her parents, her dad was the one who like saw Eddie snooping around by the pier, right?
Yes.
But then, like, Eddie, we need to talk about what? No real information is ever exchanged. I guess she says, like, or somehow is it her that tells him, like, the backpack is still there or something?
No, that is Eddie's sister. What happens is Eddie presses Colleen, and Colleen says, please, Eddie, let it go. I don't know anything. So she doesn't give him anything. Following scene, Eddie calls his sister and is like, where did my jeans go? Because he's remembering something in his jeans, and of course it's the bracelet.
Right.
But it's like Eddie came to and had the flashback and it's like, oh, that's right. I grabbed her bracelet. It's like, Eddie, you would have remembered that. It's just sloppy, but it's sloppy.
It's very sloppy. Also, because Eddie, apparently, so the thing is, Eddie saw her drowning and then tried to keep her from drowning, grabbed a bracelet, and then, I guess, got the bracelet and then was like, oh, I guess she's dead. And and then just, like, went to sleep. Like,
well, that's the thing. I know.
It's just, this feels so weirdly unplotted. The murder.
Also, if he was so... Go on.
No, you go.
Oh, no, if he was so drunk, he looked like he had to row the boat back because they were, like, in the middle of the lake. I don't know. It's bad. It's bad.
This whole Alex death thing sucks. It sucks. It was not a part of their life, and it just popped up.
I wrote down. There's a note on one line of a legal pad, and he's nuts. He's scavenging this like shed, the side of the barn or whatever it's called.
And maybe the most insane thing is he's doing this, and he's like, no, I'll get there for the vow renewal.
Yeah.
Guys, fucking cancel it, which they do, but, yeah. So it's just, this murder plot, I think you guys get it. We are not in favor of the murder accidental death plot. Nothing's clear about what happened, and also the sister coming by, it's like a haunted house situation where she's like, Eddie, please, don't make us go through it again. It's like, what are you talking about? Who's going through what? She drowned. Unless, like, you murdered her, you shouldn't give a shit. Like, what could he possibly do? He found his old backpack and a bracelet. Nothing else is happening, and she's like, please don't dig it up again. It's just it's like a ghost story. It's weird.
Well, the bottom line is the father, Alex and Colleen's father, like, Kevin, I'm being serious, like,
yeah.
Obviously Eddie and Lindsay get, like, because they get driven home after this trip. What are you talking about on the car ride? Like, 20 years ago. You see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Your daughter just died because they're obviously visiting friends. Colleen and Alex are their friends. Like, what are you talking about on the car ride home 20 years ago?
Oh, yeah. When when Colleen's sister died, and they're just like, well, I guess we'll figure it out whenever, we'll wait for the report.
Yeah.
It's just... Yeah, I also wrote down, is this a different show?
Yeah, Oh, my God.
Yeah, jeans and bag have not moved in 20 years. Everything's still there. Yeah.
And how did Lindsay... Yeah, because didn't Lindsay say that on the phone? How would she know that? I think she actually did say... Maybe she didn't say those words. Were those your notes? Were you saying they haven't moved in 20... Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying, too.
That's what I'm saying,
they didn't move in 20 years. That's unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, Dave, we've both I've put something in my mom's house and left it there forever. It's not there when I go back. Like, things move, Yeah, it's all weird. And Eddie's sister got sober, still sucks. She came back and brought up this mystery, and then she's like, I don't mean to ruin your vow renewal. It's like, yeah, you fucking do. You just, whatever. She's sober, that's great. Get her out. She's off the show. Get her out of everyone's life. Go live your own life. We'll see you at Easter and Christmas or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and then so after that, Eddie's distraught because he's getting a flashback about her slipping away while he's trying to save her.
Right, which would be very traumatic. Something maybe you'd remember, but continue.
For sure. And as he's crossing the street, I know he's definitely going into bar.
So let's talk about that he's going into the bar.
Yeah, he was. I thought he was on the phone. Yeah, he was on the phone with his sister, and he's crossing a street with like 20 minutes episode left. 20 minutes in the episode. I'm like, he's definitely going into a bar, and he does.
Oh, and she asks him about it. She's like, Eddie, are you at a bar? Literally, there's just like people in the background saying, hey, this bar is nice. It's just, she just knows he's at a bar, I guess. And he's like, I don't want to talk about it. And hangs up. Great.
I write down, I'm done. Once he walks in the bar, I say, I'm done.
Dave did text me, DJ Nash is sick. But I think that's at the end of the episode. Jamie said, Jamie explained it like this. She goes, so Eddie is freaking out about something he did many, many years ago while drunk. And his reaction to that is to go get drunk. This is the biggest wiener move of all time. So Jamie, once again, bringing the catchphrases, the theme's back. Eddie is a wiener. Sits there, orders, is it a Glenlivet neat? It's
Glenlivet neat, yeah.
Glenlivet neat, so he's going Scotch. Dave, are you a Scotch guy?
The only Scotch I've had and enjoyed was Johnny Blue, which I did not buy it because that's expensive.
Sure.
But when I worked at the hotel, we had this Johnny Blue that was sitting there and no one was drinking. I'm like, I'll try it, and that's the smoky Scotch.
Okay.
So I've only had like smoky Scotch. I'm trying to think. That's the only Scotch I've ever had. But Eddie's not a Scotch guy. He should have gotten whiskey or something.
Yeah, right, like bourbon or rye or something. Yeah, I'm drinking bourbon as we speak. But so he orders it. It takes a long time for him to get his order. Literally the easiest drink to pour on earth. You just turn the bottle. You don't even put ice in it. But the guy's like, sorry, it took so long. And then he doesn't drink it because there's this sloppy bitch to his left. And by sloppy bitch, I mean an old man who's a very sloppy bitch. And then he leaves, and we're like, oh, there's something to that guy. That was, I guess that's who convinces him to not be drunk, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Eddie doesn't want to. He's like, oh yeah, that could be me, or that was me.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, I think that takes us up to. Oh, he talks to Catherine on the phone.
Yeah, he talks to Catherine on the phone, and that's when Hoobastank's The Reason starts playing. Found a reason to live.
I'm like so glad you pointed that out, because that song's playing, and I was like, oh, this is and I just started like saying the lines I know. I was like, I'm not a perfect person.
Humongous hit. I didn't know Hoobastank sang it like I thought it was a different band. I'm like, oh, Hoobastank. I knew the song. I just didn't realize it was Hoobastank.
Oh, it's so funny that this show might just go out on Hoobastank. It's so funny. But yeah, The Reason is the song. And it's appropriate. Goddamn, the reason you and I and Jamie started doing this podcast was we saw a show about people our age, and one of them killed themselves. And we were like, that seems relatable. And then we got in on it. But one of the things is like the songs that pop up in the show are songs that were like hot when we were in high school or college, right? So that's fun. This is like the first age for us, I think, where we're watching shows that are like that, really. Besides, like, I don't know, the OC or something when we were just out of college or whatever. So it's like, oh, shit. Yeah, I remember Hoobastank. It's just a funny thing to be the final song here. So, yeah, he talks to Catherine on the phone, right? And they...
Yeah, and he his mind is clear, which again, I said earlier in the episode, earlier in this episode, it's like, no, that's fine. You don't have to feel guilt, but you really made a quick, transgression there. So
he made a quick decision. He almost turned, and then he turned back and said, no, I don't need it. I love you. And it's one of those tying up loose ends conversations that happens in TV where as soon as that conversation's done, someone's dying or close to it, where it's like, I've avoided this turn that would have been bad, would have changed everything about me, and I love you. Catherine just like, I love you, and see you soon. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Katie. And he walks out, and as soon as he's out that door, Jamie was saying, she's like, oh, so he gets hit by a car now. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's going to be the old guy. And the shows, and Dave, stop me if I'm missing anything before this, but Eddie hangs up, or he's like on the phone, I guess, as he walks into the street, and a car just hits him. It breaks. It looks like a thing where you would survive this hit, unless his head hit the ground in a weird way. So it's not like he's automatically dead. I mean, Eddie's not dead. If the show comes back, I'll say it. Eddie's not dead. But if the show doesn't come back, the final frame is a car just hits Eddie and it cuts to black.
Yeah, that's what it is.
What are your feelings on the end of that?
I mean, that's not what I wanted to have happen, because the show the show was based off a guy dying, committing suicide. So a second death. That's not what I wanted.
Right. Although it's the guy who was having sex with his wife dies at the end, so it's like ultimate karma.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at it that way.
But yeah, it's just this really, if this is the end, it ends unfortunately on just a series of bummers for all the characters that are the people we've grown to know.
A series of bummers. You can. On the flip side, you can say Gary has gotten past his issues with his mom and is happy now, in a healthy relationship, even though it's young.
He's in a healthier relationship pattern now. He's trying a thing for real, Yeah. So,
and Delilah is done mourning her husband, although, again, she was the one that was in an extramarital affair. So, yeah, I mean, you're right. It's a series of bummers for sure.
Right. So Gary and Delilah are in, they're in okay places. That's good. Maggie is sad, but okay. Her career is on the uptick, at least, so that's good. She got the England thing. Eddie could be dead. We don't know. Even if he's not, he thinks he killed someone. Eddie's in a rough place. Catherine is married to Eddie. That's not great.
Their marriage is bad again.
And then Rome and Gina don't have a kid.
That's not good.
After a whole season of trying. And then Gina is resentful in a big way towards Rome, which I think they could get past, but I guess that's just, it depends on whether the show's renewed or not, and if any shows are renewed anymore.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, where do other shows fit into the fall schedule? This was, what was tonight, the 18th or 19th episode? I will say, a season finale in late March. They can do something where, like, shows now, like, I know NBC does this a lot. They do, like, short seasons, where a show debuts in late February. I don't know. They can... who knows? Maybe they only order like 14 episodes next year or 11 episodes. What do you think? I think it's coming back. Although after this podcast, the way you're talking, I came into this thinking 10 out of 10 it's coming back. But the way you're talking, I mean, yeah, I can see it not coming back.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know. If you listen to this, you don't listen to it because we do the most the most research. You know, Dave does the most research out of anybody on the stuff, and we follow some people on Twitter. So I don't know fully what the ratings are. I know they're not terrible, and I know it's also not the number one show in the country. You know, I think it's doing fine, and I know it's definitely doing well enough to justify a pickup. It's just a matter of, you know, you don't know what networks want or what they're thinking. And then the thing that we're all living in hell right now, that, coronavirus stuff is shut down. It shut down my career. I'm a stand-up comic, and my career's gone for a while, at least. You know, it's like I have an album out called Nice and Drunk, so that, and that's done... That's done very nicely for me and is keeping me afloat. So if you guys want to buy that, that's on iTunes. Thanks. But we also don't know how that affects production schedules going forward. So we don't know logistically if or when the show would come back. But as you were saying, you can have a smaller pickup. To me, this show, it's had 2 solid seasons at worst. It's had 2 solid seasons, which is a huge victory for any show, specifically with the long network schedule. So give it 8, even if it's not a full pickup, give it 8 episodes to tie up loose ends, tell one more story arc, you know.
For sure. And like, first of all, I never loved looking at ratings because usually my favorite shows always got low ratings and got canceled.
Sure.
I don't want to be depressed. But now with streaming services, I really don't look at ratings. I'm just thinking, I will say this. I watch a ton of ABC. I watch, like American Idol on Sundays, Mondays, Bachelor, Good Doctor, Tuesdays, my sitcoms, Wednesdays. Kevin, I got to be honest with you. I have never seen a trailer for A Million Little Things until like Thursday during the day. Sometimes I'll have like ABC's local station news on and like, Days of Our Lives is coming on and you'll see tonight on A Million Little Things. Like, I don't see trailers for A Million Little Things like I see other shows. I don't get that.
It's not getting
especially when you have the 10 o'clock slot on Thursday. I honestly don't see trailers for A Million Little Things. I don't get that.
It's not getting the promotion.
Yeah, I don't get that.
Right. In a prime spot after Grey's Anatomy, too. Grey's Anatomy, season 44. Good job, Grey's. Also, Jamie pointed out, NBC has a show that just debuted called Council of Dads.
I recorded it, yeah. It looks decent.
Remember, there was an episode of this show, of A Million Little Things, called Band of Dads?
Yeah.
And it's basically NBC's Council of Dads. Jamie read the premise. It's just like, it's A Million Little Things in slow-mo. It's a dad who gets cancer and then has all of his friends band together to be like, basically a band of dads for his kids. So it's like, oh, he's just not dead yet. John Dixon dies episode 1, So it's like, is this not a spinoff? Is DJ Nash not writing this or getting royalties? But Council of Dads, yeah, on NBC.
All right, I'm gonna do a spec script and just turn it into like a pilot of a new show.
Oh, I can't do it, Dave. Just spin off one of these characters and then take give him a different name. Boom, get NBC to buy it. Yeah, but I mean, fuck, man. That's the last image, is that Eddie gets kind of boned right in the hip by a Jeep. And that's how we end the season. So...
Well, I was going to say, the other thing is, a lot of shows, I kind of like how you have the cliffhanger and then the next season picks up from that day because you can sort of shorten the time frame and squeeze in another season. I mean, they used to do that back in the old days, but...
Oh, sure. But, so, I guess I'll ask you, Dave. So, what are your feelings and what are you looking for if this is the end of the season? And then same question, series.
I mean, if this is the end of the season, I think we both agree that Eddie survives, but there's still going to be... doesn't he have to have a conversation with Catherine about where he was? Why did he walk into the bar? And then, so that's my main issue. And then the Gina Rome fallout. In terms of the series finale, it's just, I guess I'm just happy for Gary. Like, I mean, who else are you going to be happy for?
It's a bummer of a series finale if that's how it ends up being. Let's hope it's not.
I mean, that's, I'm happy. I love Gary, so I'm happy for Gary. And then, yeah.
I mean, I guess I respect them for not changing the way they were going to tell the story based on the worry that this would be the end of the series. They're pushing all the chips in to be like, fuck it, we think we're coming back on season 3. We think we should. And I know DJ Nash signed on to be showrunner if it comes back, which, I mean, it seems insane that would even be a conversation. But, yeah, I mean, they did not go halfway. They did not give it a sort of storyline. They did not set up these characters so that this episode could be a satisfying series finale. This would be a terrible series finale. But as a season finale, could be, whatever, fine. Hopefully they would just throw away this, drowning death storyline in the first episode, would be the last we'd ever hear of it. I'd hope. And then everything else, there's stuff to tell. There's Delilah dating again. There's Maggie. I don't know if we even follow her if Alison Miller's off the show, going to England.
I think that fellowship was 6 months, but now, here's the thing. Even if that fellowship was 6 months, you're picking it up where Eddie got hit by a car. So obviously that's, that night.
Right. And then you can fast forward between any episodes you want or whatever. And then Rome and Gina have a real tough situation coming up. If it's just a season finale, if we see one again. But, yeah, I guess we have to wait and see to do that. But Dave, god dang, when we started this podcast, it was the fall of 2018. Feels like a different world.
It unfortunately is a different world.
Very much so. Yeah. And how it started. Who started? Do you remember how it came to be?
I mean, I think I was watching. Hold on.
I think you tweeted about it, maybe.
Oh yeah, you know what? I might have tweeted about it in like August of 2018 and being like, because that's when they kind of start doing trailers for new fall shows, late August, mid-August, late August. And I think I tweeted about it being like, this is a show I'm going to watch. I think you saw it, and then we just started texting each other about a pod.
Right. Yeah, you, me.
I think we were at the same time, yeah.
Yeah, Jamie and I saw a trailer about it where the guy jumps off the building, and we were both like, I think I'm going to watch that. And
it's Ron Livingston, yeah.
Yeah, we love. And speaking of swingers, yeah, as we did earlier. So, yeah, and Jamie and I, you're Mr. Network. You watch all the network dramas and stuff. Jamie and I don't typically watch shows like this, so we were both kind of surprised that the premise hooked us. And we're like, well, this is, if nothing else, this is a good reason to hang out with our friend Dave in Chicago via Skype. And now, before it was like, oh, yeah, via Skype, it'd be better to be in person. Now this is the only way that people hang out.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So, yeah, Dave, if this is it, any parting thoughts? If this is the end of our podcast run, which is, I don't know, what are we on, like 43 episodes or something?
Yeah, well, 22 plus 19, probably 41.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a blast. I wish there were times when I was working that I didn't have to and we could have all done it together, but it's been a blast. Hopefully, to all the listeners and stuff, to the people on social, I think we had some good listeners that would, follow up on social.
Oh, absolutely. And we slacked on Instagram, but our Twitter at A Million Podcast have been great. Like, we've had a lot of interaction on Twitter over at A Million Podcast if you want to interact with us there. Yeah, and it's been very nice, and the amount of people who've listened to this show are way more than we thought we were going to have beginning this, because we don't have any expertise. Like, I'm a comedian and host some things. Dave's a writer and has been an on-air personality, but for sports, for the most part, and Jamie's a writer and performer as well. So it's like we have no expertise on network television recaps. It was just something fun we wanted to do, and it's nice. Way more people listen than we thought.
Absolutely. It's again, like you mentioned, this is the only way to hang out now, but we were forerunners.
Yeah, exactly. We got on it pretty early. So So I guess we'll say goodbye for now. Thank you for listening. And, hopefully this isn't goodbye forever, but we're hanging on. We're waiting on a cliffhanger, just like the characters are on the show and just like the actual people who work on the show are. So I guess we'll also say thanks to the people who put together A Million Little Things for giving us a reason to hang out with our friends. This, over the last, basically weekly while it was on for the past year and a half. And, hopefully when this is over soon, we'll get some more episodes taped. And if not, hopefully, Dave, you, me, and Jamie will hang out at a bar somewhere soon, either in Chicago or New York.
That would be fantastic. Another place that's closed down, bars.
Everywhere. Let's get it back. God, thanks for listening, everybody. Million Low Bite.